My name is Sarah. I am from CITT, and we are joined here today by CartonCloud with Olivia and Javi. Today, CartonCloud is going to help us to explore how you can scale your current B2B 3PL warehouse operations to unlock additional revenue streams by capitalizing on e-commerce fulfillment services alongside your existing operations. As our industry enters a new era of change and uncertainty, 3PL warehouses can future-proof their operations by remaining agile and responding to market demand. For small and medium-sized 3PLs, e-commerce fulfillment offers a significant pathway to new revenue streams, customer acquisition, and long-term sustainability, utilizing the resources and warehouse space you already have. So as everyone here is joining in, I just want to give a very quick little intro to Zoom webinar in case there's anybody here who needs that. So you will see at the bottom of your screen a chat button. Here you can chat with other attendees, put some chat messages for our speakers. But if you do have any questions that you would like to ask, please make sure to put them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen so that our panelists can answer those questions at the end of the presentation. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Olivia and Javi.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much to CITT for allowing us to be here today, and for anybody who is joining, thank you so much for your time. We are here representing CartonCloud. It is a software solution that offers warehouse and transport solutions for warehouses across a variety of different industries. And we are so excited to come here and talk to you today about some new tactics and insights into unlocking new revenue in the 3PL e-commerce space. So before we dive into the content here, we'll go ahead and do a quick little intro. My name is Olivia Trankina. As it says here, I'm the Customer Operations Manager here in North America. What that means is my day-to-day is concerned with making sure our software is molded around our customers' needs, making sure that they get inventory visibility, that their orders are going through as efficiently as possible, and they're able to invoice their sub-customers if they are in third-party logistics. I come to CartonCloud with several years of experience in the WMS, TMS, and OMS space. In that time, I've worked across a wide variety of industries, apparel, cold storage manufacturing, and also many different types of flows, such as business to business, direct to consumer, some cross stock. So we come to you having seen many different things going on in the warehouse. And I'll pass it over to Javi for his intro.
Good afternoon. So my name is Javier Hernandez. I am a implementation consultant here with CartonCloud. And so my primary focus is to kind of make sure that our system is going to be molded and tailored a little bit to your needs, and then kind of helping you become a little bit more efficient within the warehouse. So handle a lot of like the post-sales conversations and making sure kind of we're up and running. With me, I do bring about 9.5 years of logistics experience, kind of primarily as a 3PL account manager, and then also some in a dedicated facility as well.
A little sneak peek into today's webinar. So this webinar is meant to help you with today's webinar. This webinar will be for you if you are just barely starting to look into e-commerce and you are starting to just want to see what those flows will look like, whether or not that is something that you are interested in. It is for anybody who is currently using e-commerce flows and may be interested in ways to streamline their current flows, or maybe take on some additional product types or sub-industries there. And it's also for anybody who may have a warehouse that is primarily processing more traditional pallet in, pallet out flows, cross-docking flows, but maybe you have a little bit of extra warehouse space and you're wanting to see if e-commerce could be a good fit for you for a part of your business. So throughout that, we will start by going through how you can start to offer e-commerce services alongside traditional services, some key tactics for success, and how e-commerce flows do tend to have differences with B2B flows. finding a niche there, the differences in e-commerce, depending on the types of products and the industries that you may be going after with your customers, and then how you can take those tactics and take them forward into the future to grow with them. So why the focus on e-commerce? A bit double-edged here. So first of all, we're seeing that e-commerce is 100% booming as a trend, statistically speaking. The US logistics market size is anticipated to reach US $1.9 trillion in 2025. We're mostly through 2025, and we've seen it continue to hit those marks. And also just in our day-to-day, we are constantly dealing with clients that are hitting a point of growth where they need to find a software solution. We are seeing more and more pure e-commerce customers come out for those needs. And we are also seeing a lot of our more traditional pallet customers come to us for a phase 2 and asking how they can start to use some additional tools and start to bring these types of businesses into their warehouse. So with both of those in mind, the point of this is really to make sure that everybody who wants to get into e-commerce has the tools that they need to begin to pursue those flows.
Just kind of as Olivia was mentioning, so you may already have kind of a pallet in, pallet out, more of a traditional warehouse. So some things to consider just from an e-commerce standpoint. Some of the biggest things are going to be kind of the overall order volume and then maybe the complexity. So that being, some of these orders might be multi-line picks, as well as your customers, especially the e-commerce ones, are going to have hundreds to thousands of orders per week, and then also hundreds of different SKUs. So being able to manage that efficiently is going to be something to really consider. It's not so much a pallet where you might have 52 on a truck and you really just have to keep track of those. If you have thousands of orders, you want to make sure that every order is accounted for, and making sure it is kind of picked from the initial order creation date all the way out to once it hits the UPS truck. Some of the other parts to consider are you're essentially becoming a extension of your customer, meaning that the true end customer doesn't really know where this order is coming from. So things such as branded boxes, maybe flyer inserts, anything as far as on-time delivery, you're truly the extension of your customer. So making sure that you're hitting those expectations and keeping your customers happy truly is something to consider. Just because a lot of the Amazons of the world, they've kind of set some high expectations. So with that comes making sure your inventory is on time, the orders are going out when you said they're going to go out, and that they're being delivered on time. So selecting the right shipping service, whether it's next day air, second day air, or if it's ground. So a lot of that is something to consider, just to make sure that it is something you want to dive into and that you're able to kind of keep those promises to your customers. All right, and then kind of coming back into a little bit more on that higher order volume. So a lot of these are hundreds to thousands of orders per day, hundreds of thousands of orders per week. And then inventory on these are typically a lot smaller. So I think one piece to really consider is, whereas one container might yield, X amount of revenue, a lot of these orders are going to be charged kind of each individually. So that revenue is generated per order, per pick, maybe per overpack box, or if there's urgencies, but also rate markups in a piece that generates extra revenue, especially in the 3PL world. And then just to kind of give an idea, right? Some of these orders, they're not going to be one item per order. The kind of little graphic on the side is, right, you have different picks going out, so making sure those are accurate. So a lot of these are going to be multi-line picks, so anywhere between two lines per order up to 7, really depending on your type of customer. We find that a lot of the food and beverage or anything that is some kind of subscription typically have a wider mix. So making sure that those are picked with accuracy and that you are essentially kind of keeping those KPIs up. And then the other piece, again, just to kind of reiterate, is making sure that the orders are shipped on time, but also that the correct service is selected. So again, Amazon has put a really big kind of point there on making sure things get there within 1 to 2 days. And so while we are not Amazon, the network's not as big, making sure that those do go out in time so that the customers stay happy kind of all the way throughout their entire process.
Thank you for that, Javi. So here in front of us, we have a good infographic just showing the end-to-end e-commerce flow. So you can really see how it initiates, how those orders will travel through the warehouse, and then how we're going to get them out for as quick of an order life cycle as possible, which, as Javi mentioned, is a constant goal in e-commerce with those really tight SLAs. So we'll start over here on the left where we see importing orders. This is the very first step in the process. This is how your orders are going to flow into your software, and it's the first time that yourselves or warehouse users are going to know of those orders' existence. We draw attention to that in e-commerce because this can look a little bit different from your more traditional flows. You'll see that we have a couple of logos here that we see on a common day-to-day basis, such as Shopify, WooCommerce, Amazon. For each e-commerce customer, it's very, very common for them to use more than one storefront. Sometimes you can have one customer using Wix, Etsy, eBay, Walmart, Shopify. They may be using all 5 and getting orders from all 5 sources. So it's very important that on those front, that is happening in real time and there's no delays from the order being placed and when you can begin to fulfill it. I will also highlight down here where it says plus 100, hundreds of other applications. That may sound like an exaggeration, but it is not. We've seen very complex requirements come through for customers to where more connections than you would ever think for where they're getting orders from. So this is something that you really want to make sure that you have infrastructure in place to handle this, because as your customers compound, you really need a way to keep that all organized and flowing seamlessly. Moving on to our next step here. So the primary day-to-day focus in e-commerce is going to be on fulfillment. So because it's what you have in your day-to-day control. So once that order arrives, how quickly can we get it picked, packed, and out the door? The key here is that these orders are typically very small, but they are also typically happening in a much larger volume than what you may have seen before. So when we do picking, the key here is waiving. For anybody who may not know, wave picking is essentially having orders grouped together based on some sort of criteria. We'll get into that a little bit on the next slide here. But that can be product type, maybe the location zone inside the warehouse so that orders are being grouped and only sending you to that one area. And it can also be done by locations, similar orders, bulk waves, things like that. This will naturally flow into packing. So once you're done picking that wave, you bring it over to a pack station, get them packed up as quickly as possible and sent out the door. That also goes hand in hand over here with our ship and track. A part of that pack station process will be making sure that you can key in those package dimensions and weight as quickly as possible, get the best rate back, get that carrier label printed out, just so you can continue on and also save just some marginal money on the actual carrier labels, making sure that you're picking the best service, both in price for yourself, but also in service level. Something we'll see in e-commerce frequently as well is, to put it in very simple terms, like a standard versus expedited flow, where if it's coming from Amazon and it is marked as expedited, you need to get that out in 2 days. You need to make sure that you're choosing a service like FedEx 2-day. And you can see, once again, this is another place where we see a lot of logos. In the US, FedEx, UPS, USPS are very common. In Canada, we'll also see Canada Post come into the mix there. And then we'll also see some aggregators down here, services like ShipStation, StarShipIt, Sendle, that basically allow you to rate shop across a bunch of services without actually having to connect to those specific ones. So that is that basic end-to-end flow. If we go back here, there is one key component that Javi has already mentioned that does occur in the background during the warehouse processes here, and that is replenishment. So when we say replenishment in an e-commerce perspective, we're not talking about actual reordering from an external location to refill our stock levels. We're talking about making sure that the stock within the warehouse is replenished to the places that we want it. So something that we'll see commonly used is maybe a reserve storage zone, and then some more upfront preferred pick locations, just so your users are able to take efficient routes through the warehouse, and they're only having to go to those upfront locations. And then the replenishment will be, if those run low, replenishing from the reserve to make sure that the ones who are actually fulfilling are not having to move from that front area. Not used in every warehouse, depends on how large the SKUs are, for example. But when there's a smaller SKU amount, it can be very valuable. And last piece here, kind of an overlay for this entire process, especially if you're in third-party logistics, will be invoicing. As your number of customers grows and as their number of orders grow, it can be very difficult to stay on top of manual invoicing at the end of the week or at the end of the month, whatever that cadence may be for you. So the invoicing automation piece becomes very necessary. This is something that can be working in the background to charge on things like storage costs, incremental order flat fees or volume-based fees, or even shipping fees, where maybe you're taking back those carrier label costs and just passing them on to your customers, something that can be automated as well. And it's a very different type of charging than we'll typically see in pallet flows, where it's more based on the individual order and the volume inside it, rather than some larger scale things like maybe container arrival flat fees, which we'll see a little bit more frequently in those pallet or cross-docking flows. Okay, so as promised, now we're zooming in a little bit to some specifics of waiving, since they are a very integral part of the day-to-day of e-commerce operations. So these are a little bit reductive, but these are very common ways that we see groupings of orders, and there's some different tactics that we can employ for each of these SKU presentations. So sometimes we'll see customers that have a lot of identical orders, single item orders, and also multi-item orders. So zooming in to lots of identical orders. The example here is 100 identical orders of double bags of pasta. Could be anything as long as they're the same. There are some industries and some business types where we will see this more frequently. When this occurs, it is the best possible situation for the warehouse, because this is the scenario where you can go out and you can truly pick with the most speed and efficiency. You're essentially going out, getting a bulk pick. You'll probably only need to stop at 1 or 2 locations, and you're picking 100 or 200 of these SKUs down into a bin, but it's for 100 or 200 different orders, the quickest picks that you can do. And we will see this come up a lot, maybe in some new customers where they're just starting out, only have a handful of SKUs. We'll also see it for e-commerce customers who tend to go off of promotions or item drops, where we'll have one anticipated day where there's just a flood of orders all for the same thing because of a deal. And we'll also see it for subscription-based services, where we can anticipate on a certain day we're going to have a lot of identical orders all going out because it's on that subscription cyclical process. So for this, we do recommend using a bulk pick. You go out, pull everything down into a bin, and then when you go to that pack station, you can just basically pull and scan, and it will assign to an order as you go, because it doesn't really matter who it's going to. All of the orders are exactly the same. When that label comes out and you apply it, that says this one's going to this address, this one's going to the next address. All right, our next one here, 100 different orders, all with a single item. So we will frequently see this as well. Sometimes we just don't see a lot of the same SKUs come through in a certain day, and there is a lot of variety. An industry where we will very frequently see this is apparel, where even just having 10 different main variants of clothes, once you add in sizing, coloring, things like that, then it quickly expands and you end up with a lot of different small variations of SKUs. It's less common to get repeats of the exact same one. So with these, we can absolutely still employ some strategies to help. A good one here is waiving by product type or waiving by product zone. So although you may need to go to different to different locations here, you can at least make sure that your user is going to an area where that product type is stored or where these are zoned. So they're able to do a bunch of quick picks all from the same area, even if different SKUs. So for this, we would also recommend picking everything to a trolley or large tote or large bin, pulling them all down. The packing process is still going to be very easy here because when it's a single SKU, you're essentially able to scan them off at that pack screen and just pull down the order to ship it out. So it takes a little bit longer to pick them, but the packing process is still going to be very quick here. This brings us to our last one, multi-item orders. So this is an unfortunate reality with e-commerce. It's typically the slowest type of picking, and that is just because we need to organize the orders at some point here, pick from multiple locations, but make sure that the stock for those different orders is being paired together. What we will usually employ here when we see this is a pick to tote process. And you may have heard of that by different names, but this is a useful little video on the left that kind of gives a visual. What we will typically have here is a trolley and then some bins that are on that trolley with their own labels. So essentially, as you are directed around the warehouse in a logical flow, as you pick, you are also assigning them to bins and organizing them by order. So all of that organization is done at the picking stage. By the time you get over to packing, it's very easy because you can essentially scan that bin. Everything is already there where you need it to be for the order. So all you need to do is transfer it to a carton, print your label, and move it on. And I am going to go ahead and share my screen here to show a quick example of what this will look like in practice. So what we're seeing right now is my phone screencasted up. This is what the CartonCloud app looks like. This same process will be familiar in many other systems as well. And so we're going to show a pick to tote order in process. So I'm going into wave picking here, and we are clicking on our top wave and clicking pick. So on my side, I am holding a little scanner, does not have a lot of range, but gets the job done for desk side testing. And I have some barcodes here as well so that we can simulate this. So I'll just kind of talk through what we're doing here. This is directing us to just go to 3 different locations here. So we'll just go through one by one and begin those picks. And we're pretending that we have a trolley like we do on the left. So I'm walking up and scanning CO201. We can see that here I am being asked to pick 1 carton of this mandarin and lime mojito pack. And we need to assign a tote because it's the first one that we've picked for this order. So we're kind of defining it as we go so we can keep everything nice and organized. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and scan one of my bins. So I've assigned this 2 yellow 1 bin to this order. And then I'm going to go ahead and scan to pick one of those cartons. Then I'll move to the next location, CO202. Here we have 2 more orders that we haven't started yet, so we need to assign their own bins. So 2 yellow 2. We need 2 cartons for this one. And 1 more bin to assign for our final 3rd order here. And then our very last one here, C1002. And perfect. So you can see here that we've already encountered this order. We've already started picking for it. It's just another pick for the exact same order. So it's asking us to rescan the same tote to confirm that that is where we're putting this stock. And then we just go ahead and scan this second SKU as we pick into it. So pretty straightforward. That's a small example. Typically we'll see trolleys of like 10 to 12 orders, depending on the size of the SKUs that you're handling. But that is the pick process. So from there, we complete pick and we can continue to packing. In our system, at least, we have 2 options here. So you can continue to pack through the app, or you can deliver this to a pack station where you can begin to scan those bins as you take them off. It'll just take you right into all the order details so you can choose the carton dimensions and weights that you're packing out with and print out your labels.
Thank you, Olivia. So, just kind of with all that being said, I know kind of logistics as a whole is not exactly the most intriguing industry. And I'm sure no one kind of woke up one day and was like, man, I really want to hop into logistics and be a warehouse manager or owner. So, it isn't, rather exciting, but the biggest thing is, if you are going to dive into this where it's a little bit more fast moving, a little bit more fast paced, it's truly kind of finding your niche. That is, I think, something that, not to oversimplify it, but kind of finding specifically what you want to focus on. So that might be refrigerated goods, if it's foods, um, tires, e-commerce, clothing. So kind of truly finding what your market needs and then, kind of zoning in on it. So by doing that, it might be trial and error. You might get some customers that you wish you never got. And then you might get some customers that you're like, man, if I could have 5 more of these, this would be great. So kind of zeroing in on that really helps you be more efficient and then streamlining your process. So not every warehouse is going to be able to handle every type of customer. Some customer or some warehouses only want to deal with specific customers. So being able to kind of be the local expert is going to be something that's essentially a competitive advantage. But then also having a system, and whether it's CartonCloud or not, obviously we're going to be a little bit more biased, but there's tons of other WMS providers. But just really finding a system that's going to fit your flow, kind of help you be a little bit more efficient. And then truly, again, logistics isn't super, super exciting, and it really shouldn't be if everything is streamlined and operating as it should. It should kind of come in, the orders go out, but kind of capturing everything and making sure that you are billing for everything that is coming through your doors, that you are doing, your ad hoc services, and really capturing all the revenue. Just because, me personally coming from a paper-based system and then finally going onto a WMS system, it is a lot easier when everything is automated and you're able to capture all your revenue. A lot of the times, kind of when you're not in your niche and you're just kind of bringing on every type of customer, you tend to kind of lose focus a little bit. And then you end up, with stacks and stacks of paper. And, at the end of the day, adding more labor isn't necessarily going to, be profitable. It might generate more revenue, but at the bottom, it's the bottom line that's going to matter. So again, reiterate, finding your niche and making sure that you are in a specific 3PL division that you truly want to be in, that you feel comfortable handling. So with all that kind of taken into consideration, and again, this is going to be a little bit more CartonCloud biased, but we do have tons of different resources, whether it's guides, videos, we have our knowledge-based system. I mean, it's truly just kind of give you an idea of what that e-commerce flow looked like, or 3PL flow. So whether it's different pick faces, how to set up your racking locations, if it's the different types of hardware that you need. So maybe you are going from a paper-based system and you want to move over to something a little bit more electronic, a little bit more automated. Feel free to check us out. We have tons of different resources, and we're always open to kind of answering any questions, whether it's with CartonCloud or any of our, I would say, competitors. We all try to have an industry standard. So feel free to visit our site, kind of look through everything we have there. It's completely open and free. So maybe, again, it might just be an idea and you want to see if it is something that you can do. But yeah, we also do have a couple different free guides as well. So just kind of how to market your 3PL. So you might be in a dedicated facility now and you want to start growing and kind of expanding it and letting different customers who may have looked you up previously, let them know that you are offering 3PL services. And then also just to kind of help streamline, like, what is your checklist? Maybe you have 80% of the things you need to hop into 3PL, kind of the e-commerce fulfillment, kind of a quick little checklist there, quick rundown. And you might already be, more than halfway there. So yeah, feel free to visit, any of our resources. And if anything, feel free to reach out and whether it's with us or somebody else, but we'll be happy to kind of point you in the right direction, kind of get you guys up and running.
That's pretty much the same here. As Javi said, feel free to reach out after the webinar as well if you do have any other questions. But for now, we're going to go into some questions and see if we have anything here in the chat. It looks like we do have a question added on the side here that says, For customized packing, what is the best way to take care of invoicing for e-commerce and save time there? So when packing, kind of some tips and tricks, best ways to take care of invoicing. Javi, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. So I guess when it comes to e-commerce, so being able to automate as much as possible, so not making it just kind of like a one-off charge. So when it comes to e-commerce, we want to make sure that if there's a, just a flat order fee, if there is a per pick fee, maybe a per carton fee or a pallet fee. So really letting the system kind of keep track of that. And then that way per order, you're kind of generating that revenue and keeping it all in one. Um, so making sure that you're not doing a bunch of ad hoc services. So it might be, or sorry, none of like the white glove stuff. If you can automate it as much as possible, it's definitely going to be something that is essentially the best part. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. And then at the end of the month, you can do kind of a quick review. And then if you do get those one-off little, maybe it's value-added services or things of that nature, it is logged accordingly. But truly just kind of letting the system automate it. And so that way, it's kind of a secondary nature there for you.
All right, thank you. And we have another question here on the side. Can customers, so this is a question for third-party logistics providers, can their customers see orders and reports from WMS/storefront integration? I can take that one. So yes, that is a general for any WMS warehouse management system that will specialize in 3PLs. It's definitely something you want to look for because of that customer visibility. So the ability to for the customer to log in, to view their own inventory so they can begin to reorder, so they can check on certain orders themselves. It's going to cut down on a lot of time for you as the third-party logistics provider, because those kind of day-to-day questions of like how many pallets are here, how many pallets are there, are we out of stock on this? They can just log in and see it themselves. And also a common feature in a lot of these WMSs that specialize in 3PL as well will be push notifications. So beyond the ability to kind of log in and see their own reporting, also just getting notified when sale orders ship, being notified when inbound orders make their way into the warehouse and have been verified by the warehouse staff. So really just having the visibility and opportunity to log in and also have those email notifications pushed through.
So what types of niche custom new requests are you starting to see that weren't previously the norm or weren't previously supported in the software? So a lot of the ones that we're starting to see, and it's kind of across the board, but it is kind of the picture capture or document capture right before either when the orders come in or when they go out. So a lot of times it used to be those orders came in, whether it was, if it's paper-based through an email or something along those lines, and then just the order going out essentially. So within the system, we do have the capability of taking a picture of when the product was received, kind of verifying it, making sure that, if it's lot numbers, serial numbers, any of those custom fields essentially, and then just kind of like a packing confirmation so that the customer can see, what was the state of the package before it went out. And that way it kind of helps, when it comes to insurance claims. So if we can submit as much proof as possible to our different carriers, such as UPS, FedEx, it kind of helps it keep a little bit more of an established case. So that is something that we do see a lot more where customers are taking pictures of the products or the packaging before it goes out. And it's really just kind of covering themselves. And that way it's not like, oh, well, this wasn't, packed efficiently. But that is something we do see a lot more of. And then with that, in our documents tabs, we do kind of retain all that information. So if it is, a couple weeks down the road, we can always refer back to it. And pull up any of the documentation that goes along with that order.
And I'll add to that a little bit. Two big things that, kind of three big things I've seen as well. A lot of it has to do with the packing process at the very end there. We've seen a lot of requests around optimizing cartons when sending them out, making sure you're choosing the best one, and also rate shopping. To make sure that I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but just really like counting pennies, making sure we are choosing the best service for it to go out on with the carrier, that it will save the most money and get there in the right amount of time. So that's always been a focus, but it's definitely become like even more down to the line in my experience. And the second one, there's a lot of different types of e-commerce customers we'll see. There is a certain portion of them I would call like boutique e-commerce, where maybe you've seen them on Instagram or on social media. They're almost primarily marketing customers. They're brand new. They work a lot off of promos. And because of that, they're almost completely a marketing company. So when you are fulfilling orders for them, they expect a high degree of customization. So things like packing slips, gift notes, things like that for those boutique e-commerce providers. I'm sorry, the boutique e-commerce customers has become rather large. So it's important to have a pathway to be able to provide that customization without bringing your operations to a grinding halt just to fulfill the needs of one customer. Yeah, gift notes are a common one, customized notes that you're including in marketing materials, things like that, that are kind of just a little extra touch, really like white glove service. This one is specifically about CartonCloud, asking what is our software pricing? Is there a desktop version as well? Is it cloud-based? What other modules apart from pick and pack does it have? Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a warehouse. Our main modules that we offer are warehouse and transport. Primarily e-commerce and the flows that we've talked about today would all be part of warehouse, what's happening between your four walls of the warehouse. If you reach out, we're going to send out an email after this, giving you basically a link. The pricing does depend. It is tier-based. And it depends really on your volume. So it can scale up and down depending on your order volume. That works really well if you're just starting out as well, because the pricing tiers grow and scale as your actual order processing grows and scales. So there is a little asterisk on that because it does depend a little bit on the types of flows, maybe the types of integrations that you're after. But we can absolutely have a conversation with you and provide some pricing to you. Is there a desktop version as well? Yes. So anything that you do on the app, except for take photos, because you just can't do that on a desktop. That's really the only difference. There is a desktop version. We have some customers that prefer to use the desktop version. Like maybe they have a really good receiving setup with a desktop and a packing station, and they prefer to do that. You can also use that interchangeably with the app. The app is meant to be more for the actual warehouse processes that the user can take around with them, so they can scan, move around inventory, use it to quickly receive things, fulfill orders. So that's meant to be a little bit more on the fly. And the desktop will be a deeper dive into order history, order creation, reporting dashboards, things like that. Our software is cloud-based, and modules apart from pick and pack. So within warehouse, it's pretty standard for WMS. We will have like a receiving put away. So the ability to capture everything that is coming in, capturing things like lots, batch numbers, expiration dates, if those customers need to track on those things, internal warehouse movements and replenishments, picking and packing both for pallet flows. So if maybe one order at a time with larger pallets, cross-docking, and then wave picking, as we showed a little bit earlier. And those are going to be the main flows for warehouse, I believe. Javi, did I miss anything?
No, I mean, the other big module is going to be our invoicing module. So I think we kind of hinted at it a few times, but each order essentially kind of builds its own little charge. And then depending on your charging scheme, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, we do have a place where it all consolidates, and then it kind of helps kind of aggregate everything, sum the totals, and then give you a nice clean report at the end of the invoicing period. So that is all part of the WS module. And then as Olivia mentioned, the TMS module, that's going to be a little bit more for some local transportation if you were to do some delivery yourself.
Okay, and I think we have one last one over here in the side panel, unless feel free to continue to type questions if you have them. We do have some more time. But do you have any recommendations for best practices around warehouse location setup for e-commerce fulfillment? Yeah, so I can start on that one. So with more traditional warehouses, where maybe we're handling larger pallets, larger crates, cross-docking, generally the location setup will matter a little bit less. We may have some large docks, some large bulk or floor locations. Sometimes we'll have racking to store those different pallets. When it comes to e-commerce fulfillment, not always, but frequently, the actual SKUs that we're handling are a lot smaller, like t-shirts, like apparel, something small that can fit in a small box. So as a result, it's not going to be making sense to pick off of a pallet a lot of the time. What we'll see in our highest volume customers is designating specific pick locations, where you may have something set up like picking bins instead, maybe some smaller areas, because you're going to want to break down like cartons and have some loose stock there. It's just going to majorly cut down on the time it takes to pick when you go and you're picking one each or one carton of something. You just want it already exposed so you can go and quickly grab it. With those small bins though, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, you will frequently find yourself needing to backfill them or replenish because there's only so large those bins can be. It's a lot higher volume. So that's where that warehouse replenishment can come in. That can work a couple different ways. It can be based on minimum thresholds. So maybe a location fills up to max 100 eaches and you want it to have a minimum of 10. Depending on how quickly moving the SKU is, that threshold could be higher or lower. But essentially, once you've picked enough orders to where that stock has fallen below 10, the system will basically let you know, hey, you need to go pick 92 of this SKU from a reserve location and bring it over to this bin, and it's going to top it back up to the max. So it's basically just a way to keep the pickers efficient. But then we are adding in that replenishment role at the same time, which may be a little bit unfamiliar. All right. Anything to add to that, Javi?
No, kind of hit it right on the head
Yeah.
there. I do see another one here. I think it is, this one actually might be you, Olivia, a little bit more versed in this. You've been here a little bit longer, but so please tell us about CartonCloud's history and company background.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So our company is actually Australian based. So a large majority of our team is still in the Australian, New Zealand area. And what that means actually for our customers is that they get a lot of support because between North America and Australia, there are many hours represented between us. Our time zone struggles are your time zone boon, essentially in that sense. But CartonCloud's history. So I believe we are going on 13 years as a company. We are founded from a warehouse. So our founder, Vincent, who currently works with product enhancements and making sure that we're basically pushing out product enhancements continually that keep up with the market. He was the founder. He was working at a warehouse essentially, and it started as a homegrown system to fix the issues that they were having that they could not solve through other softwares. So it comes from warehouse people, people who have worked and spent time in the warehouse and transport industry, and who have seen the pain points and have turned around and basically turned it into the software that they wanted. So in that time, we spent about 8-9 years growing in Australia, and we've now been in North America, in the North American market for approximately 3 years.
So how do you connect a WMS to online storefronts to automate orders into the system? So we have a couple different ways of bringing orders into the system. So primarily, or kind of at a very simple, we have a manual process where a customer can come in, enter the order, or the warehouse comes in and enters the order. But we also do have kind of CSV kind of inserts. So we call them parsers, meaning the customers can fill out their Excel document and they can either come into the system and drop it in, or they can email it and the system will take it and digest it. We also have EDI connectivity. So if it's a little bit more, let's say more of a legacy system that needs to be integrated, we can integrate that way and bring orders in. But then also we do have a open source API connection. So for storefronts such as Shopify, it's a direct connection. So as soon as the order hits your customer's Shopify store, it'll drop into our system. And then as we kind of move through the process and ship the order, it'll close the order out within CartonCloud, and then also close the order out and send the notification to the end customer as well. So manual CSV files, EDI, and API. So we're pretty well versed as far as bringing orders in, and then it's kind of communicating back to the different storefronts as well.
All right, awesome. I am not seeing any more questions. So I think that we are all good on this portion. If anybody who has joined and thinks of a question right after, or is just looking for a demo of the software, wanting to see it, we're also happy to answer any sort of just general non-software related questions about e-commerce happily. Please reach out to us. We'd love to get on a call, send an email, whatever works best. We do have one more question, but Ruben, I think we're going to go ahead and reach out to you via email, and we can give you some more information there.